Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to Modernize or Die podcast. It is episode 181, coming to you on January 24th, 2023. I'm joined by the immaculate Brad Wood.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's good to be here.
Yep. And of course, I'm Gavin Pickin. So thanks for joining us. We're both senior developers for Ortus Solutions. And that's how we want to start this show, is by thanking Ortus Solutions, who are the major sponsor for this podcast. They're the makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and every other box out there, almost. But there's a few ways you can say thanks back to Ortus Solutions. You want to give us a few, Brad?
I'm talking to a chat right now, but I guess if you want me to participate in the podcast, I could. I have to scroll back to the top of the document. So, you can like and subscribe, or apparently the kids say smash the like button. I don't know why it has to be smashed, but that's the verb everyone's going with these days. You can also help us reach for the stars by becoming an astronaut and flying to the moon. No, by starring and forking our repositories on GitHub, so the greater programming community can see the activity. And we even have a project from the command line that I think Eric wrote that will go through your box.json and automatically star all the repos you use, because good developers are lazy. You can subscribe to our podcast and the podcast in your podcast apps. And leave us a review, but only if it's a good one. If it's a bad review, we do not want to hear from you. And you can sign up for a free or paid account on CFCasts, which is releasing new content every week.
Yep, and of course we have the Box Life store where you can get some of the cool shirts you might have seen some of us wearing. We can also have a couple books you guys can check out. So we got the 102 ColdBox Quick MVC Quick Tips and Tricks on Gumroad, and we also have the Learn Modern CFML in 100 plus minutes. It was 100 minutes, but we've added more stuff to it, so now it's more.
But wait, there's more.
Yep.
Sounds like Louise.
Yep, lots of stuff in there. And then, of course, we couldn't do it without our patrons, right, Brad?
We could, but we wouldn't actually be able to do it because we wouldn't have any money, and so it wouldn't exist.
Yep.
No, you are correct. The Patreon's supporters are funding 100% of our Modernize or Die podcast, and that was our original goal. We have 42 amazing Patreon supporters. The Patreon site is www.patreon.com/OrtusSolutions, and our second goal, which we need your help with, we are 37% of the way to fully funding the hosting of ForgeBox.io, which is our Cold Fusion package repository. It provides free cloud storage for your binaries, and that actually costs us real money, including the servers we pay to host in DigitalOcean. So please help with that second goal and help us fund ForgeBox.
Yep, we did a whole bunch of changes to our hosting infrastructure, moved over to a whole new set of servers.
That's always scary.
Yeah, it was, but it's a big upgrade, a lot of improvements here, security improvements and all that. So
after a while, you look at your Docker version and you're like, oh man, how many versions behind have we gotten? And so sometimes it's easier just to bring up 5 new Swarm nodes and cut everything over and turn off the old ones. And when it's all on DigitalOcean, it's actually not that hard. Right?
Yeah.
We probably only paid for a few days of overlap where everything was all up, and then you shut down the old ones.
Yeah, pretty nice. So anyway, thanks to Patreons for helping make that possible. Okay, next up we have some news and announcements. And the first thing that I wanted to look at was the new releases for Java 8, 11, 17, and 19 as of January 17th. So I don't think they covered this last time, but we have the update there from Charlie, and then up next we'll discuss a little caveat of that, shall we say.
When did they come out? I don't even think I realized they'd come out. I've been so
on the 17th of
hiding under rocks. Let me see if it's on the Adoptium API. I have run the Java search command in CommandBox, which will default to Java 11, and I'm showing the latest release is update 18, came out January 19th for Adoptium. Nice.
So yeah, they came out 2 days later. So, yep, there's some cool changes in here. As usual, Charlie has a great write-up here on it. But also, he mentioned that there's a little caveat. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Brad? I don't know if you knew this or not, but apparently the Oracle ones are giving us some grief,
Oh,
or
really?
giving some
No, I
people
had
some
not
grief.
seen that. The latest, sorry, I can't read. The latest Oracle JDK installers will remove older JDK installs of that version. And that's not new, though. I've seen that. It's been quite a while since I've just straight up installed Java on my computer. Just download it from Oracle. But I've seen that for a while. It'll pop up and be like,
Really?
oh, you've got these old vulnerable versions. We're going to go and get rid of them for you. But you got to be careful, because if it detects a JRE folder that Cold Fusion is using, it could totally jack up a server using that. Yeah, I didn't think they had done that recently. I thought they've been doing that for a while. Now, maybe they've gotten more aggressive about it. I hadn't actually read Charlie's full write-up on it.
So it looks like it's for 11 and 17, but not 8 or 19. Again, Charlie did a good write-up on it, so go through.
Okay.
And I guess
Well,
the
that's
new
probably
behavior.
when I saw it, Dennis, when I first installed Java 11.
Okay.
And since I make everything about command box, if you're using command box for your local development, or for anything for that matter, you can set your default server Java version to be OpenJDK 11, and command box will always automatically download and install the latest releases of Java. I mentioned like 30 seconds ago, I didn't even realize Java had come out with a new version. Well, I've been using it for the past couple days because I've been starting servers, and command box just goes, oh, hey, look, a new version of Java 11. Downloads, and all my servers just use it. So, you didn't have to think about it. Use command box.
Very cool. So,
Those cheers were for command box automatically downloading Java on your behalf.
too funny. Okay, well, next up, we also have a little CBWire CFCasts series poll up on the ColdBox community site.
I voted.
So Grant is basically put up a little thing. So far, there's a couple of, quite a few people going for the first one.
Oh, yeah.
The Twitter clone, and then the Mastery series is getting quite a lot of hits too. And the Alpine one is okay, but it's a lot less CBWire, so I assume that those two were the best options. But yeah, so you come in here and vote for what you want, and then Grant is, basically working on a new CFcast series. So we'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to the CFcast.
Once Grant finishes building the Twitter clone, how much do you think Elon Musk will pay him for it? We'll give you a steal, $43 billion, Elon. That's all we're going to charge you this time.
Yep. So I'll share the link for that, in the show notes as well, so you guys can go vote on that. But it's nice to see that, and if you guys, we'll talk about Grant's webinar as well. So I'm jumping ahead of here, so we'll go back and continue as planned. So new releases and updates. We got a new update out, so fresh the blog isn't out there, but the changelog is. So I'll show the changelog. Are you gonna tell us a little bit about what we're talking about?
I could. I have to figure out what I did with the show notes, though. Oh, here they are. So we have CB Security version 3.0.0. Brand new. Major release. I haven't even read the release notes yet to see what the incompatibilities are, but I see that you are showing them already on your screen, and we have what appears to be an upgrade guide. Nice.
Yeah, we did drop ACF 2016. And they separated the routes into its own module router, and then did some compatibility with a JWT auth validator instead of mixing concerns with the JWT service.
What routes does CB Security have?
Well, I know that part of this actually got a new CB Security visualizer.
Oh, that's for the visualizer that shows the rules. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and there are a couple other little things in there, but I think we're starting to add more and more to it, and so anyway, they just separated it out. But yeah, lots of cool stuff in there. But yeah, instead of CB auth validator, it's just auth validator. And they're doing some work with the settings to sort of separate them into more, I guess, logical steps. So I know Luis was trying to come up with a way to organize those better too. There's a lot of settings in CB Security because you can do quite a lot with it. So. But if we scroll down,
holy cow, it's a massive list.
Yeah.
So a new auth validator for validating permissions and roles according to the iAuth user interface. The idea is that you probably have an existing application and you have an existing CFC that represents users and things like that, and you don't want to have to change all that. So CB Security tries to give you a way to bridge it, to your existing application. We have new authorization and authentication delegates. Interesting. Wirebox delegates are a pretty cool new feature, but I think we have a blog post on somewhere if you're not familiar with those are. Basically sort of magically injected methods. There's a firewall that logs actions to a database table. Oh, that's cool. A visualizer for visualizing settings. I love visualizers. Yep. Basic auth, validator, global, and rule actions. I don't even know what all this stuff means. There's a new event, CB Security on Firewall Block, that's announced. Interesting. So you can tap into that. DB token storage now rotates using async scheduler. Oh, I love the asynchronicity. Yeah. You can use CB CSRF module. Okay, nice. Blah blah blah. Rule-based IP security, allowed IP addresses. Okay, HTTP method security. Some of this overlaps with stuff you could do at the web server, but if you don't have that ability, it's nice to have that here in CB Security as well. Security headers configuration allows developers to protect their apps from common exploits. Okay.
Just a ton of stuff in there. So
there's a bunch of stuff. There's a huge list.
Yep. And then so definitely go check that out. I know that the changelog is there. It looks pretty good. They're going to turn that into a blog post here soon, but we want to get that out. It's fresh off the press, shall we say? So get in there, try it out, let us know what you see, what you need to harass Luis about, changing updates. But next up, webinars, meetups, and whatnot. And so starting up, we have the Google event calendar, right, Brad?
I don't know, do we?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Ortus Google event calendar? Yeah, we have that.
Yep, so we're trying to keep that up to date, so make it easy for you guys. So if you follow that, it'll make it much better.
And you should be able to add that as an external calendar to your Google Calendar, so the Ortus events will just show up right alongside your meetings. That way you'll never schedule over an Ortus event again.
Yep, that's the plan. So we're trying to keep up to date. We'll try and add names and stuff as we get through there. But we had the office hours on the 6th of January. It went really well. And then we had the CBWire coding session. So they did live coding with Grant last week. It was really good. I'll share the link for the CFCast video. And then we have another office hour coming up on February 3rd. And then the Software Craftsmanship Book Club returns on the 10th of February. That's a Patreon exclusive, so go check that out. But I think all the other content... there is a Hawaii one. I did not get the link for that yet, the CF Hawaii. I think I saw it on Twitter, but I missed it when I was getting the notes.
The Docker one?
Yeah, so I think there's a Docker one coming up from CF Hawaii. So I'll try and get in the show notes before we publish it. Sorry for everyone watching live.
Did the MVC one already happen? I didn't actually catch the date on that.
I think they changed it and they're doing the Docker one instead. They had an API one they just did last week, which I haven't found the link for yet, so that's why it's not on the show notes. But we'll get that posted out as well. So there are some other meetups happening.
I didn't realize they'd actually canceled the MVC one because I had seen John asking for someone to present on it.
Yeah, I think someone stepped up and said they'll do the Docker one, so he switched it out for that one. So, Yep. So quite a lot of stuff going. We'll see. We'll try and get the links in the show notes, but we'll keep on plugging. So next up we have CFCasts, and so CFCast.com. We got a lot of great information up there. There's tons and tons of content, and we're adding more all the time. And we just released the January webinar, so the CBWire live coding session with Grant Copley. So if you want to check that out, go get that up on CFCast.com. And we're always releasing the new ForgeBox module of the week and the VS Code hint tip and trick of the week from the podcast. If you missed the podcast, we have the series up there. So the 2022 series has like 45, 50 videos, and then 2023 video series has already started. So every week we add a new one there. So lots of cool content. And of course, ITB 2022 for all those paid subscribers. You can check out like 30 plus videos there. So what do we got coming soon, Brad?
Well, I've recorded all of my new command box screencast videos. I think I had like 27 of them. I've got about half of them produced, and you guys are helping me actually get those put up. I don't know when the first ones are going to go live, but those are going through the production lines right now. I'm excited to get them out. We've got obviously more of the VS Code snippet videos from the podcast. We have the CBWire series from Grant. Obviously, go fill out that poll on what you want to see there in our community discourse forum. We have Coldbox Elixir by Eric Peterson. Getting started with Content Box with Daniel, I assume Garcia. And then Boxifying third-party libraries with some bloke named Gavin.
Yep, so a lot of stuff in the pipeline, we got to get them all finished up, polished, and produced so we can get them out there. So that's what we got planned. If there's anything else you'd like to see, anything that you think is missing, let us know, and we can even try and put up on CFCasts or do a webinar on it, as we've got more webinars planned coming soon. So CFCast.com, lots of great content, more coming. Okay, conferences. So first up, let's talk about CF Online. Looks like we've got a couple of sessions that were last week. So we had the leveraging AI, the cognitive services via ColdFusion, which that link is up already up on the Adobe ColdFusion playlist. And we also have the spreadsheet magic from Kevin Wright. So that one is up there as well. And then what do we have coming up next? Now, Brad, did you see this one in Vegas? The next one's the opportunities for blockchain technology. Are you a blockchain?
I saw it on the schedule. I did not see the presentation.
Okay, because I'm kind of curious about that. Everyone's talking about Web3 and all this stuff, and I actually listened to one of the Dark Diaries episodes where they use blockchain stuff to hunt down and stop some crazy, dark web. Bad site. I won't say any more because it's pretty graphics what they go into and everything, but
That's
it's crazy how they took down a whole bunch of stuff because of blockchain. Because blockchain, you can follow the path and everything's public, and so it's kind of crazy.
So yeah, because this session I think focused on NFTs. I think NFTs are kind of dumb, but I think collecting antiques is kind of dumb. So don't take my word on it. I know they're super popular, and so I'm glad people are looking at how to do it with ColdFusion. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes, I think, has an entire website selling NFTs. You can own the video of him making a touchdown or something, and it's all blockchain deal. And I think it'd be fun to see that. I don't think I'll ever buy an NFT, but if there's money to be made on it, it's at least worth knowing it's out there.
Yep. And then apparently Scott Steinbeck said CoffeeZilla, some cool detective work with blockchain. I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to check that out. CoffeeZilla.
Maybe you should have Scott Steinbeck on the podcast sometime and he could talk about it.
Yeah. Yep, interesting.
I uncover scams, fraudsters, and fake gurus that are preying on desperate people with deceptive advertising.
Usually surrounding crypto. Interesting. So, if you want to look and see, I think that's it for this online CF Summit. There's probably a couple of speakers that haven't presented yet, but they should be announced very soon if they're going to do that, or they'll play catch up. But it's been pretty cool. There's lots of great videos. If you missed them, they're all up on their YouTube channel, which is really cool. So we got a couple of VueJS ones coming up. So tomorrow and Thursday is the VueJS Nation conference, and then we have the VueJS Amsterdam coming up in February here pretty soon. So you guys, the 9th and 10th, and I'm not sure if they have that online or not. But VueJS Live does have, that's going to be May 15th and the 12th and the 15th. That's what always gets me because it's so separate, the two dates. But that one's going to be online and in London, UK. So if you guys want to sign up for that one, you can do that online or in person. It's pretty cool. And then we've got some sad news for Dev Nexus, don't we, Brad?
Oh, we do?
Yep, no Ortus speakers were selected by the looks of it.
Yeah,
sad
it
days.
appears that our ColdFusion talks and non-ColdFusion talks alike were all unselected. They chose to go a different direction. Luis and I'll have to pin down Pratik when we get there and be like, why didn't you choose our sessions? Give them a nuggie or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I mean, we submitted a bunch of different types of stuff too, so there's only so many spots, and it's a big conference, a lot of different things going on. So, are you still going to be attending this year?
They probably have thousands of submissions every year, to be honest, because it's such a big conference, and they have a public call for speakers. They probably are inundated. So, there's always next year. Get on the speaker list.
And then coming up at the end of May, we have something special, right, Brad?
we have Into the Box 2023, the 10th edition. Took me a second to find the right button for that. No, actually, I have people hired in the back of my office. I have a little button I push that says applause, and they all clap. Right, so we're going to be back in the Woodlands, which is the Houston area, Houston, Texas. Continuing our tradition of training, offering pre-conference hands-on training on May 17th, and our live mariachi band party. So we're back to the spring schedule. Beautiful weather in the Woodlands. Though honestly, it's not like the weather was bad last time we were there, since it's in Houston. So 2023 marks our 10-year anniversary. It's crazy. So it's basically 2013 we had our first Into the Box, which at the time was basically a big pre-conference to CF Objective, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, come a long way.
And what's that?
We've come a long way.
Oh yeah. So anyway, we may do some special stuff there. And I think you may still be able to slip in a call for our speakers. If you send us something.
We extended it to the end of January, so you got 1 week from the day of recording. So January 31st, we're going to close it up, and then we'll be making the decisions and getting that out there to you guys. And I did have a sneak peek at some of the submissions, and it's cool to see a couple of older names that we had actually at the first edition, way back in, 10 years ago. So I'll have to keep tuned to find out some of them, and if we pick their sessions, you'll see them on the speaker list in a little while. So, but CFCamp is going to be back, so June 22nd and 23rd at the Marriott Hotel Munich Airport in Freising. You guys can actually work on their call for speakers too, so if you want to go enjoy a great conference in Germany, they have the call for speakers open, and that's closing March 15th, so you've still got a month or so, month and a bit to get that done. So get some ideas, check your travel plans, and like Ben Adele's talking about busting out the passport, get it renewed, get it ready. So if you guys are gonna
Ben, if you're listening, if you can go all the way to Germany for CFCamp, you can go to Houston for Into the Box, baby. We believe in you. You can do it.
Yeah. Ben came to one of this Into the Boxes. I remember we had Actually, no. Maybe it was CF Objective that I remember.
No. I don't think he's ever been there.
No, it must have been CF Objective that I remember talking to him at the
I know
lunch
I've
table.
talked to Ben for the last 10 years on how he should come to Into the Box.
Yeah. A lot of people attend it, and yeah.
So I got to figure out what I'm going to do, because I just got the dates yesterday for a camp, like a summer camp that I work at every year. I've done it for like 8 years now with kids. And it happens in June, and since CFCamp moved themselves to June, CFCamp is going to be smack dab in the middle of that camp, and I'm going to have to pick which one I want to go to, and I actually haven't decided yet, because I really, really, really look forward to doing that camp once a year, and I really, really, really have been looking forward for CFCamp to happen again, and I basically can only do one or the other.
Yeah,
it really sucks.
You've been to the last few CFCamps, right? So you might have to get in line with all the Ortus people. Make sure that you're on the list still.
But yeah, so I really sucks though. I wish CFCamp had stayed in the month they were in, because they never had any scheduling conflicts for me. Now I know there was like Oktoberfest and all that nonsense, but they've made everything more difficult by going there.
Yep.
Yeah. Adam Cameron says I got to come to CFCamp, watch him drink beer while I have a ... soda.
Yep. And then Michael Bourne said, "Bring your camp to CFCamp."
My camp to CFCamp. What could go wrong?
Yep, for sure. So lots of cool conferences coming up, and I'm sure we'll hear from Adobe as it gets closer to, if they release their information. They usually have some type of government version in March, and then obviously September, October is when they do their other ones. So let's get into blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So we have another one from Charlie, right, Brad? You want to start us off with that one?
Sure. Ooh, man. I really missed a lot of these.
You're not paying attention, man.
Well, no, I've been on Twitter, but there's been a bunch of idle crap on Twitter, between like Cold Fusion tweets that have nothing to do with the programming languages, and I don't know if you have it on here, but the details of a security exploit for Adobe Cold Fusion, which those always get thousands of retweets. I've missed a bunch of the like actual just tweets from real live Cold Fusion humans I care about. So, our Charlie article is what's new in Fusion Reactor 9.2, which I did know Fusion Reactor 9.2 came out. But I hadn't actually looked to see what all was added. So anyway, we love Fusion Reactor at Ortus. We use it anytime we have a client who needs troubleshooting performance fixes, and they have regular releases. So it looks like they have 5 new features, 6 improvements, modifications, and bug fixes, more CF metrics for Adobe Cold Fusion. That's cool. Most people don't even know about the CF metrics page in Fusion Reactor. It only shows up obviously for Adobe. If you have a Lucy server, you won't find it. But on the web request menu, like one of the bottom options is CF metrics, and it taps into stuff like the page pool cache and the request queues, things that even the Cold Fusion administrator doesn't provide any visualizers for. So that's kind of cool. They've added some items to that page, and they basically just have to muck around in the depths of Cold Fusion using reflection or something to pull some of that out.
Yeah, I like the size of memory used for session, application, and server scopes. That's kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they calculate that. Calculating memory usage is always difficult in Java, because there's a difference between how much memory exists in a single object and how much memory is retained in the heap through the garbage collection routes for a given object, because you have to like recursively trace it all the way down, and one object can have multiple garbage collection routes, and so those are always kind of some complicated things, but I'm sure they've put a lot of thought into it. I really like this distributed tracing stuff. This is a feature that pretty much all of the like monitoring APM kind of softwares out there have been doing. And Fusion Reactor is right there with them. The idea is, in a simple web page or a simple setup, you just have a web server, the client hits refresh, you hit the Cold Fusion, the page loads, boom, simple. But in a more complicated site, right, you have a front end that maybe is running JavaScript, that's logging things. You have a request that goes back to the Cold Fusion server, and that request may spawn HTTP calls out to an API that's also part of your network. Database calls. There can be a bunch of different things that all run across different servers, and the distributed tracing is the ability to kind of track all that wherever it goes. Sentry does stuff like that. A lot of different APM softwares are doing that, and so they do some really tricky stuff where they inject like HTTP headers in your HTTP calls, and then they can capture that coming in, and they know that an API call over to your API container came from a specific request that initiated it over here, and you can kind of combine all that together to get like this overview of everything that fired across your infrastructure to supply that request for the user. And so I think the distributed tracing stuff is pretty sweet, especially if you have kind of a spread out setup with different APIs and things all serving the same request. But anyway.
cool. And they did a whole bunch of improvements to the monitoring of calls to HTTP client, OK, HTTP, MongoDB, RabbitMQ, Kafka, and all these other Lucy specific stuff too. Quite a
Rabbit,
lot.
Is that new?
Things. Yeah, apparently.
I mean, because I'll bug the Fusion Reactor guys pretty regularly, and I'll be like, hey, why aren't you guys tracking the calls to this, like, to Couchbase or this, random underlying thing? Because the Fusion Reactor developers have to write the code to, detect that there's a RabbitMQ library in the JVM being used to make calls, and then, track those calls. And they use instrumentation and all sorts of cool stuff to do that. So, everybody's used to Fusion Reactor tracking, like, the JDBC calls. Like, that's the easy one. Everybody's always seen that one. But, tracking HTTP calls is something they've added. And they have to support each Java HTTP client separately. And then these things like Fusion Reactor and Redis, not Fusion Reactor, RabbitMQ and Redis and all those things, that they have to implement a lot of work to make. I don't know if it's a lot of work, but it takes work for them to actually implement the ability to trace all those calls. I think that's super cool. Okay, so Charlie actually said some of these are not only new. Wait, again, these are not the only new in Fruit Fix. Okay, that's what he's saying. Sorry, I was trying to read Charlie's thing there.
Yeah, I do want to mention that there's a heads up. There's a bug introduced with Fusion Reactor 9.2 affecting Adobe Cold Fusion cache queries if sent to Redis, and that's for Adobe 2021. So if you're not running Adobe 2021, don't worry about it. But if you do, there's a JVM property that will turn it off.
I'm sure they'll probably have a fix for that soon. And since I turn everything into command box, if you're using command box in the command box Fusion Reactor module, by default, you will magically and automatically get new versions of Fusion Reactor the next time you start your server.
Yeah.
But which can actually sometimes bite you in the butt if it turns out that, like, the internet's down and your server won't start because it can't download Fusion Reactor. But barring that,
Yep. And then we already talked about Charlie's post about the JDKs removing older ones earlier, so we won't repeat that, but the link is in there. And then next up, we had an interesting one by Ben. He's sort of been on this little hashing little path lately, but I will show you, at least those watching, they can see the screen, because I really like this one. And if only just for the pitches. So it started off saying, does the order of hash inputs matter in terms of the uniqueness and distribution of a hash? And so obviously the order of the things that you put in there will change the actual hash itself, but he was trying to see, does it make it any more unique or not? So
what do you mean by unique?
Like, does it make it any more random? So what do you think?
I don't know that I understand the question.
Yeah, it's different, but like I said, a lot of crazy interesting stuff. But basically, if you hash the inputs of ABCD versus DCBA, does it make it much more different or unique, and is the distribution of that any different? And he says he doesn't know scientifically or mathematically, but he decided to basically do this little experiment. And like I said, the cool thing about it is he's got pictures. So if you guys aren't watching, you're gonna miss out. So basically here,
Like it's a scatter graph.
yeah, a scatter graph of 1,000 hashes, and then the two different options. And then he's got 10,000 hashes. You can see if there's like groupings or not, and if there's much space, see if there's a difference. So far they look pretty good. And then this one, this is what, 100,000 hashes. So this is pretty well spread, not too clumpy or anything else. But my favorite one is like the million. It's like a starry night.
Starry night, yeah.
So if you want to do like space theme pitches, just put 1,000,000 dots in this 700 by 700 square. It looks like space.
So what is he using for the X and Y coordinates in this graph here?
Good question.
I mean,
So he's got the script here, but yeah, he's doing secure randoms. But I don't know how he's doing it. So
looking at his code, I'm seeing, so the random inst number, is that what he's generating? Oh, there it is. It's defined above. So you can
convert it to a number.
Here. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what we're showing, other than the fact that the output of the digest is essentially evenly distributed by means of whatever method he's using to determine an X and a Y coordinate in a scatter graph.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, it doesn't affect it, so he doesn't have to worry about the order of inputs. He can just hash them however he wants to. That was sort of the goal from that, was to see if there was any difference or any changes. Because in his next blog post, or the previous one, he was comparing Java's message digest to ColdFusion's hash function in CFML News.
Actually, that was the first one. You're doing this out of order.
I know, I'm doing them in reverse order, that's what I'm saying. The next one, which is the previous one. So yeah.
Yeah, because I had talked to him about that one on Twitter. Because I had pointed out that if you look at the Java source code for Lucy for the hash function, it literally just uses the the message digest class in Java behind the scenes. Basically, the Lucy source code looks pretty much like his scenario. In his example, he was using a library that. And so let me back up. A lot of people don't realize, or at least I didn't realize for a while, is that with Java libraries at least, the input to all digest or all hash algorithms is essentially a byte array, and the output of all hash algorithms is also a byte array. And so hash outputs are encoded with either hex encoding or sometimes base64 encoding to create the human readable version you're used to, but it's really just a byte array that comes out. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, yes. So he was looking at a library that it was essentially hashing several different byte arrays, and he wanted to see the difference between just appending it into one big byte array and saying hash this versus using the update method, which is something that's part of the Java API that allows you to add something additional into the hash. And I believe basically the output was the same.
Yep, so exactly what it shows.
He showed a few different ways to basically combine arrays. And he was essentially working with a ColdFusion array, and via the magic of reflection, you can basically have a ColdFusion array of integers, and that'll generally be turned into a byte array for you. And byte arrays in Java are a native data type. It's not like an array list, which is an object. It's a native construct. But yeah, and the other thing Ben and I were kind of talking about is how we love the fact that when we want to go see, what is the Lucy source code for this? In Lucy, the Java class name for every single function is literally just the name of the function. So if you just, in your IDE, you want to say, what's the source code for the hash function in Lucy, you just open up hash.java. And if there's more than one class with the same name, occasionally you'll run into that. It's usually going to be in a functions folder. And tags are the same way. I think you look up like mail.java and you look for the classes in like a tags folder, that'll be the implementation for the CF mail, which makes it really fun and easy to just pull up the Lucy source code and look at it and see what it's doing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I haven't dived into it too much. That's why I let you do. So,
yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, basically, this means he could go trying to find the fastest version of it since they all produce the same output. He can figure out which one's the best way to do it and, get something more optimized. So, pretty cool.
I would beware of premature optimizations, to be honest.
Yeah.
Most of these hash algorithms are incredibly fast, so I think we're probably talking about nanoseconds of whether you append an array first or second, but it's still interesting at least to understand how it works, which is the quest for knowledge, I suppose.
Yep. So the next one from Ben, it's a little aside about how he accidentally used continue to short-circuit a .each iteration in ColdFusion.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out if that was a bug or a feature.
And that's what he put at the top. This is likely a bug in the CFML language. It's kind of neat. Yeah, because in a normal, CF loop or whatever, if you want to jump out of that and continue the rest of the loop, you just put a continue.
Adam agrees it is. I didn't take the time to go look at any other languages for precedence, but I've always taken the higher order functions like map, each, reduce to be something you can't break out of like a for loop. And honestly, I had never tried using continue or break. But
well, this blog post looked like it might be stolen from Adam Cameron because the words in his array are bloody hell, man. So maybe
either that or Ben was channeling Adam.
Yeah, maybe thinking it's a bug, but yeah, basically, instead for the foreign words, he's using the continue to jump out of it. But yeah, AIUU, I mean, it does sound like an Adam thing for sure. But yeah, so the continue statement basically jumps out. So it's interesting. Yeah, I think I've done that by mistake before too, and it's just one of those things. But usually for an each, you need to have the return. But yeah.
And if I recall, Lucy and Adobe both did this, right?
Yeah. Now I wonder, okay, did one just copy? Did Lucy just copy Adobe's, option, or?
I could easily see Lucy just doing what Adobe did here, but I could also completely see Adobe not thinking this through. And honestly, I don't know if somebody wrote code to make it work like this, or if just the byte code that was generated, just whatever the break statement does, probably raises an exception or something internally. It may have just been an accident that they didn't think about that, but
yeah, possibly. Yeah. And Dan says, obviously we mean that when it's Adam-esque, it's brilliant. Outstanding.
Indubitably.
Yep, for sure. And then we also mentioned Charlie's blog post about having new releases for Java, so there's the link for that there too. But a little short and sweet on that, but that's your blog tweets and videos of the week. And again, we might have a couple of ones hiding. I'll try and get them added to the show notes just in case. But next up, we have Find a Job. So we got a couple of jobs listed here on getcfmljobs.com. And let's see, we got 2 new jobs posted this week. I will share my screen, Brad, if you want to jump in there and give us a quick rundown of those 2.
Adam Cameron did just confirm in the chat that JavaScript will not even compile code if you try to put a continue statement inside of a array for each.
Yeah. Like I said, that's probably what you expect. So, okay. So, looks like we got
ColdFusion jobs. We have a ColdFusion developer at Remote in the UK.
Yep. And we also have a senior ColdFusion developer in India.
Still reading the first one. Marcus Donald People. Never heard of them. Cold Fusion 11 Update 19 is the current production environment. Wow. You're expecting an interview there. You should have some hard questions for them.
Yep.
And
Hopefully you're doing a migration, because it's not even supported anymore.
they want you to know about a good understanding of front-end languages, frameworks, toolkits, and libraries, including JavaScript, jQuery, JSON, and XML. I'm curious if they want you to know about Cold Fusion frameworks, toolkits, and libraries. Or maybe they only used frameworks, toolkits, and libraries on their front end.
Yep.
All right. I'll try not to disparage the job postings too much. And as you were saying, senior Cold Fusion developer in India.
And we also have a middle Cold Fusion as well. And so both of these are for EPAM systems. Yep, and so you can find more on their website. They've got them here. But yeah, so apparently they've got a fair number of reviews. They've got a couple of job postings, so you guys can follow those through.
They want you to have 5 years of relevant experience as a Java developer for this Cold Fusion position.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well,
there might be a few, but
it does list Java, Adobe Cold Fusion, and then some others. So maybe they actually have Java projects you'll be working on.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's got an interesting group of places too. Looks like they're pretty all over the place here. But anyway, a couple more jobs posted there up on the getcfmljobs.com. Go check it out. And if you're looking for a job, you can obviously go there. But if you've got a job, it's a cool place to post your jobs as well for free. Okay, next up we have our ForgeBox module of the week. And this week we're talking about CB Security 3.0. So we mentioned earlier, it's got a pretty big update here. Major version. I thought it was time that we refreshed everyone's memory about it. So I'm going to pull up the site here real quick because I think it's pretty neat. The visualizer, like you said, we love the visualizers, right, Brad?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this dashboard looks sweet too.
Yeah, look at the firewall activity. So you got 80 events, 8 blocks, 45 overrides, 27 redirects. So obviously it's just a mock-up there of what it will look like. But the whole idea is that, you know, you can sort of see your settings. You know, so sometimes you have everything set in environment variables or whatever. It'd be nice to sort of pull it up and see what's actually running right now. Be able to get in there and check out your JWT settings, your basic auth, etc. So it's kind of neat to have that. And again, it does a lot for you. It can do a lot of different things.
Luis went pretty crazy, and he went and just looked at a whole bunch of other mainstream frameworks in other languages. I think PHP Laravel was one of them, that he just went through all their documentation, just looked at all the security-related stuff they did. Yep, anything that looked useful that we didn't have in Cold Fusion, he basically added it into CB Security. So.
Yep. One of the cool things is they got a new logo. What do you think, Brad? CB Security new logo?
Oh, I didn't even look at it. Where is it? Where's the logo? Oh, that's on your screen. I have it up on my screen, and I was scrolled to the wrong place. Yep. It is a shield with a padlock and a little Ortus swirl. The best way to secure your application. There you go.
Yep, and so that's in the coldboxsecurity.ortusbooks.com. So it's got its own book, so if you want to get into it, that's the best place to start. Good documentation, good getting started guides and everything else. And again, it does give you flexibility. So if you have, you know, your own user service, or you want to, you know, use a certain type of security, you know, user object or whatnot, as long as it meets the interfaces, then it'll work great, and it's a great way to go. So find out more about it right here. And you can sort of see some of the pieces it uses. So CB Security includes CB Auth and CB storages, cross-site request forgery stuff, JWT. So lots of different pieces. You know, it all works together. Use as much of it as you want. I know that JWT is a big thing these days, again, and having the option of doing refresh tokens now is pretty neat as well. So if you guys are looking for a module to check out or thinking about security, CB Security 3.0 is out there. Go check it out. Okay, next up, VS Code, hint, tip, and trick of the week. And this is a new one. I just found it just today, but I thought this might actually be useful for some of the stuff that we do, Brad.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Mark map.
Yep. So
I'm trying to figure out what the heck it does.
basically, it gives you like a diagram, like a mind map type diagram of your Markdown doc. So it can show you the different headings, subheadings, and items within it. And if I blow this up a little bit more too, if it'll let me.
Just right click and open a new tab on the image if you want. There you go.
Oh yeah, but it actually shows the text breakdown too. So it'll actually show you like inline text styles and everything right in the diagram. So it's pretty neat that it can do that. But sometimes when you're writing big documents, it's hard to keep track of which section's where. Is it under the right subheading? So that's a cool little tool when you're doing bigger documentations for your README files, or even if you just use that for normal documentation. Just a way to see your overall sort of outline layout structure for your Markdown doc. So
Kind of curious what this would look like if I ran one of our larger README files through it. I mean,
it
'cause
might be interesting, but there's a zoom and a zoom out, and there's a full screen, and you can export the image too as well as edit it. So
Huh.
it looks kind of cool. I mean, for some people writing README docs all the time, it might be just a good way to get an overview. So anyway, I thought I
Yeah.
would throw it out there for you guys to check it out. But yeah, it's called Mark Map. It's actually got a pretty good 5-star rating. Over 50,000 people have downloaded it and everything, and just one of those little tools out there you might like. So go check that out if you
I'm
use
installing
Markdown.
it as we speak.
Yep. And just an extra little bonus tip in here: if you're having trouble with your performance of VS Code, you may have too many extensions running, so it might be the wrong extension. So there's actually a way to troubleshoot that right in the extension manager itself. So it'll automatically try to figure out which ones are trouble and shut off a bunch of them, and then you can try working and see if it has the same problem. You can shut off some more. But it's pretty cool they added that, because depending on how many you install, that can be kind of crazy. You've got a whole bunch of things watching and, all sorts of, background processes. It might get kind of crazy in your VS Code. So,
All right. So how do you use this mark map? Oh, open as mark map. You just right click on the MD file.
ooh.
Oh wow. Too bad I'm not set up to share my screen. So I
Yeah.
opened up the Rabbit SDK, which is one of those projects that doesn't have its own like Ortus book. So it just has a massive README file that just basically has all the docs kind of inside of it. And so yeah, you can't I can't. How do you drag it up and down? Oh, if I click on text, it just highlights text. Interesting. So it actually has all my code blocks in here, and of course this document has a bunch of headings: H1s, H2s, H3s. Huh.
So, yeah.
Shows all my bulleted lists.
So, is it useful?
I don't know. Like on a large MD file, it's like so big that I can't see anything until I zoom in, and then if I zoom in, I lose all the greater context. It's a cool little parlor trick. I don't know what I would ever use it, but it's interesting. To be honest, it would be more useful to me if it didn't go as in depth. Like I don't need all the freaking code blocks in here. If I just had like a table of contents that just showed all the header levels, like that would actually be more helpful to me than this. Like, I mean, it's super like cool eye candy, but it's a bit too much. I would rather I would want to see all my headers, H1s, 2s, and 3s, and just to like see that. Which I mean, you could easily fit that all if you didn't have all the bullet items and the
Yeah, I wonder if there's an option. There are some configuration options, so maybe this way we can
filterability.
Tweak that somewhat. Yeah. So, yep. For more details, you can go check out the website for it. So, yeah,
Pretty cool.
There's Mac stuff, Zoom, but
All right. Yeah. So
interesting.
maybe if I tweak some of those, I can get better what I wanted.
Yeah, initial expand level. So maybe you only expand so many levels.
Oh, nice.
So maybe like 2 or 3 levels or something. It might do something, but
isn't it fun that people can spend like hundreds of hours writing something and give it to you for free, and then we get to complain about how we don't like it?
Well, the interesting thing is, it's just a little tool, and then they put it to a VS Code plugin. So, I'm sure it's got a good point there too. So, very cool. Well, let's move on. So, up next we have our Patreon supporters. So, again, we want to thank all of our
amazing Patreon supporters.
Exactly. These individuals are personally supporting our open source initiatives to ensure great tools like CommandBox, ForgeBox, CodeBox Content Box, TS Box, and all the other boxes keep getting the development they need and the funds for the infrastructure that runs ForgeBox. And we know people are using it because every time we have a blip, people complain. So that means we're at the point now where we're big enough that we notice and you notice. So that's great to see it working, and really happy that it's doing as well as it is. I mean, back when we started it, Brad, you remember, like, people like, package managers, what's that? Like, who cares about package managers? Now everything has a package manager. So,
I was kind of going down memory lane the other day. We were talking about, Luis and Javi and I were talking about some of the ForgeBox features. And I was going back looking at some of the commits and just remembering, like, oh my gosh, I forgot that when ForgeBox first came out, a package only had one version. It was just the latest version, and that was it. And I was like, yeah, I remember when, like, ForgeBox 2.0, and we're like, hey, one package can have 2 or more versions. and then even then, we didn't even foresee, packages like Lucy have, like, over 1,000 versions. There's hundreds and hundreds of versions because of all the snapshots. Which, of course, we've had to think about, well, how do we deal with that in the API? How do we paginate that, in the UI, which are fantastic problems to have. But it's just fun thinking about how simple ForgeBox used to be and how much it's grown as a platform and the capabilities that it has.
Yep, it really has, and it's cool to see all the other build tools out there, as they've evolved and everything. And obviously we take the best from some of the other ones, but it's just nice to see everyone using it, and it's not just a box product repository, other tools and libraries and frameworks using it too, and that's what it's meant to be, right, for the CFML community. So, but anyway,
yep.
Detour.
All right, so don't forget we have our annual memberships. You can pay for the year and save 10% with our Patreon. So if you're a bronze Patreon supporter, that comes with a ForgeBox Pro membership. ForgeBox is free, but we have the Pro version. You can have private packages, you can have teams, things like that, and then also the bronze Patreon package comes with a CFCast subscription as well. So you can kill 3 birds with that one stone. All Patreon supporters have the profile badge on our community website to show how cool you are, and have a private forum on the community website. And we also have a private channel in the Box Team Slack for our Patreon supporters. But wait, there's more. Live stream access to the streams, such as Coding for the Kiwi and Friends and the Ortus Software Craftsmanship Book Club.
Yep. So we got a few of those out there that we just try and make it special for those Patreons. So if you guys are Patreon, come join in and let us know if there's anything else you want to see us do. But it's good to have them out there. And just a quick note, Adam Cameron said, yeah, it's really well done delivering an MVP and working iteratively with ForgeBox. So.
And MVP stands for minimum viable product, not most valuable player, in case anyone out there is wondering.
Yep. So yep, and Adam's also asking about how clean code is going. So yeah, the book club is going to be looking at the next chapter. I think we're up to chapter 3. We're only doing one at a time. If we get time, we might jump into the next one. I know Adam actually started with his work, so he's probably way ahead of us now because they were doing a weekly meeting. So we had a little bit of time off for Christmas and everything. So yeah.
Clean Code is a book about software craftsmanship by Uncle Bob, so definitely a good one to have on your shelves.
Yeah, and the clean architecture one is really interesting too. It made me think a lot more about deployment strategies and infrastructure and everything else, and just how to think about it differently. They sort of talk about people complain about what's the difference between a programmer and sort of a software engineer. And it's pretty good that we have, like, programmers are basically, you're solving, a set problem, you're programming something out, where a software craftsman or engineer tries to look at the big picture and how everything works together, and, much bigger overall overarching view.
The system level view is what I always kind of call that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's not just how do I make this bug report go away, it's how does this code fit in the existing system, what makes sense, what isn't, duplicating logic, what is, idiomatic to everything that's in place, how does it fit in the overall picture. And yeah, you definitely have to have a mind for that. Otherwise, you're closing tickets and making them go away. That's not the same thing.
For sure.
So Adam's on chapter 7 with his co-workers of Clean Code. I forget how many chapters there are in that book.
Yeah, quite a few. A lot of them get more practical, and so that'll be the interesting part, I think, when we start to look at examples of stuff and why things failed or didn't work or stuff like that. But the first two were sort of like, what is clean code, and the next chapter 2 was naming convention, so that was a 2-hour
there are
episode.
17 chapters and 3 appendices.
Yeah, we might start
And an epilogue.
combining them because some of them are sort of, shorter, but most of them have got lots of good content, and it's the discussion, I think, that's the big win on these. Obviously you can go read the book yourself, but discussing it with other people and getting their feedback and input is good. So very cool. And yeah, Adam joined us in the last one. Hopefully he can make the next one as well. So, well.
All right, so our amazing patrons.
Yep, so I'll
Who are the top patrons, Gavin?
The top patrons: John Wilson from Synatrix, Tomorrow's Guides, and Jordan Clark. And then we have another awesome group too, right?
Excelente. We have Gary Knight, Mario Rodriguez, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Dan Card, Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media, Dean Monder, Nolan Irk, and Abdul Rahim.
And we have, many more, because there are many more.
Many more.
Yeah, many more Patreons.
These are just the top patrons.
Yep, so sorry if you're not on that list. You have to bump your plan or just deal with that. But we do have a lot of amazing Patreons, and we do put them on our website at ortussolutions.com/about-us/sponsors. And I know we get people coming, joining, and leaving periodically, and so if your name isn't on the list, and it should be, let us know. If it's there and it shouldn't be, then just enjoy it while you can. But yeah, we'll try and keep that up to date, and we really do appreciate all of you. And thanks everyone for joining us in the chat and joining us again for another week. And until next week, right, Brad?
Yep.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye, guys.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.